Welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Taylor and today we'll be tier ranking romance book tropes. But before we hop in the video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you love all things books. If you couldn't tell, I am a romance book lover, and moreover, I am a romance book trope lover. Even as a kid, when I was up on that YA fantasy grind, because I grew up in the generation that YA fantasy kind of took over our life, although I didn't hop on the YA paranormal romance train, which was also a vibe, but also going off topic. Even as a kid, I was kind of always looking for the romance in the books because it always kept me intrigued, and I don't know why my 8-year-old self was obsessed with it. But then as an adult, I just kind of really delved into the area of romance. So today, we're going to hop in and start tier ranking some book tropes, and I'm going to start by explaining the tiers. Now, I didn't put together this list of tropes, I just found one on tiermaker.com, but I did update the tiers to match what I wanted them to be. So top tier, auto buy, auto read. If I see this trope in a book, I'm most likely going to pick it up. Like, I absolutely love it. Then the second tier are solid. They may not be the most auto buy-esque things for me, but every time I see them, I know it's probably going to be a good time when I read them. Then, of course, the middle tier. I just labeled it middle of the road because I can either give it or take it, love it or leave it, you know, sort of situation. They aren't going to entice me that much, but they aren't going to necessarily deter me away from reading said book. Then the fourth tier is doesn't usually hit. These are tropes that, you know, when done right, could be absolutely fantastic. But most of the time, I'm not going out of my way to seek them, and I don't really necessarily want to see them. Then the last one is the running for the hills. If I see this trope or perceive that it is coming, I am ready to DNF or never pick that book up. And there are a couple that just really irk me every time I see them, and they mostly have to do with things that should land you in jail, if you couldn't tell by some of these. But let's go forth and start ranking the tropes. So the first one is an immediate running for the hills because it is the classic, the one that seems to keep popping up even though no one is asking for it, and that is the teacher-student trope. I don't know if this is a trope so much as a bad, standard we've woven into society. As someone who wants to be a college professor and who has been in a position where she's teaching and she has students, I just can't. No. And yeah, especially when it's that teacher is in high school, this is basically, I see this and I see Arya and Ezra. I see Arya and Ezra from Pretty Little Liars, and when I was a kid, I'm like, oh, interesting. Then as an adult, I'm like, jail, sir, you belong in jail. And every time I see it, it will not be for me. I don't really care in what situation you think. I'm always going to be icked out every time I see that. And then we have the classic, the great, fake dating. Auto buy, auto read. Usually fake dating comes with some sort of like tension, forced proximity, enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers situation. So it's always a good accoutrement to anything. Plus, I kind of just love like someone being like, well, we're kind of been put in this situation and now we got to work through our feelings and kind of hide it. Ooh, Love Light Farms from B.K. Borson, that first book, beautiful, amazing. Highly recommend fake dating. Then, of course, we have the good old classic sports romance. I mean, if it's a sports romance, there's a likelihood that I'll pick it up. Like, I've been reading them. The Windy City series is probably my most recent read. Play along. Love it. I am not reading it for the sports, but every time I see a sports romance, I know it's going to be solid, spicy, probably some sort of rom-com funny, and, good found family is usually also thrown in there, so I'm usually pretty on board with it. Then we have, we just have a good slew of like auto-buy, auto-reads. Forced proximity. I'm the kind of romance reader that I want the characters to be around each other pretty much at all times. If I'm seeking out a romance book, I want there to be some romancing done throughout the entire book and not them kind of being off on their separate journeys. Same with fantasy books. I don't necessarily want them off on their separate journeys all the time, but in that one I can excuse it more because we're not necessarily going out of our way to build that sort of relationship. I don't understand books where it's like, oh, we're just gonna have them kind of off on their own little path and then maybe have a few dates in between. Like, why? Put them in a situation. Then we have bad boy, good girl. This kind of really is giving that dark romance, like Wattpad-y days of old. And honestly, I don't really care that much if it's bad boy, good girl. Like, I can see the setup. I see it, it's cute, but it's not like giving anything that like a book from my high school or like a movie from my high school couldn't give me. Then we have mafia romance. I'm gonna say I don't go out of I don't know if it's not doesn't usually hit, but however, these are dark romances and I don't really read a lot of them. I don't know. I only like read one, so I'm gonna say middle of the road. I did really like that one, but again, mafia romance tends to be dark romance, and I don't go out of my way to read it. Also, that tends to be that bad boy good girl thing, and Grumpy Sunshine. Now, Grumpy Sunshine is a solid for me. I love a little bit of just like she's a really happy-go-lucky character, and like she's bringing out the best in him. However, I'm not gonna be like going out of my way to read it just because I feel like Grumpy Sunshine is sort of like a good like personality builder, but sometimes the grump can be a little too grumpy and sometimes the sunshine can be a little sickly sweet. So those things kind of go. Bodyguard romance. I haven't read a bodyguard romance. Actually, no, that's a lie. I did read a YA fantasy series when I was younger that did have a bodyguard, and I was rooting for the romance. So I can't say whether or not I like it, but from what I remember, I'm just gonna say solid. I think it would be a solid. When I read the Twisted series, I believe that that is where I'm going to encounter that. So I'm putting it in solid for now, just from what I remember. Right person, wrong time usually doesn't hit for me. I'm the kind of person who second chance, like, they don't have enough time to be together. They just like, it just wasn't the right time. Like I said, I want them to be together the whole time. So you better show me the entire relationship from start to finish, and there better not be any gaps in between because, like, why? Like, why? Why was it the wrong time? I know it does happen sometimes, but usually it's never right person, wrong time, in my opinion, and there's that. Only one bed. You know what? I can love it or leave it. Well, let's face it, it's always cute. It's always cute when it's only one bed. Not like it's not really middle of the road, but I feel like it's a good accoutrement, well, accompaniment to everything else that goes wrong. And plus, only one bed means forced proximity. Ooh, I'm thinking of Forbidden Game from Madison Fox. I think that's the most recent one. Is that the most recent one, or was it Fake Game? I'm not sure. The second book in her little gamer romance series, there was only one bed trope, and you know that book hit. Love at first sight. Honestly, middle of the road. I don't really care either way. I'm the kind of person who's like I said, I like romancing to be throughout the book, and if that person just happens to fall in love, especially if it's a man at first sight, I'm like a little fated mates, a little like instant attraction. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. Now, love triangle, love triangle. I'm gonna say usually when I see love triangle, am I running for the hills just because of the trauma of the love triangles from my childhood and high school years? Maybe. However, I also do find myself usually enjoying some of the love triangles that I see. So, who knows? Who knows? I'm putting it in running for the hills right now, but like, don't listen to me if I ever, bring up a love triangle ever again. Single parent. I've been loving a single parent trope recently. I'm gonna put it in solid. I'm just gonna say single dad. I don't know if I necessarily go out of my way all the time to read it, but it's always good pretty much every time that I read it. I haven't read a bad one. I haven't read one where the kid was super annoying or like the relationship was completely unbelievable. Then we have friends to enemies to lovers. Now, friends to enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, and enemies to lovers are kind of always top tier tropes. So I think my question is as to what made them enemies would probably decide that, but usually I'm down for it. Now, age gap. I'm gonna put age gap in middle of the road just because age gap to me, I read a lot of romances where, because unfortunately there's this thing in society where we think that the man must be, somewhat older in some capacity than the woman, I mean, in queer romances it kind of happens, but I don't know that it happens as much when I read those. I've read a lot of them. A lot of them have hit. But there are some where the age gap was just, oh my god, why? And then there's the age gap tropes where it's illegal. And I'm like, no, step away. Step away from the girly. Step away from them. So I'm going to put it in the middle of the road because, I can love it or leave it depending on how it's done. Then accidental pregnancy. Am I running for the hills? Maybe. Would I say that I've really ever read a book that had it? No. But is that because I always tend to avoid it? Yes. Although everyone tells me I should read Out on a Limb. So I don't know that I would necessarily hate it if I read it, but I have never had a desire. Bully romance. I've never intentionally picked one up. So that probably means I'm running for the hills because I've never had a desire to pick one up. So, there's that. Brother's best friend. Now, is that Victoria's song? My best friend, no, best friend's brother, whatever. Brother's best friend. Honestly, I'm always into it. Like, if I see it, I'm like, ooh, okay. I just like to know. I just kind of like the little forced proximity. I love the, like, growing up together. It kind of usually has that little, like, forbidden aspect to it, and it makes me happy. Friends with benefits to lovers. Middle of the road. She's fine. I don't really care. So, workplace romance. She's also fine. Sometimes the power dynamics of things do kind of throw me off a little, but then again, I really did like the fine print and terms and conditions. So, take it or leave it, right? Take it or leave it. It's kind of just there as a setting, rather just like an actual plot device, in my opinion. Enemies to lovers, straight to the tippity top. I grew up on fantasy, so I was going to love enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers. I love attention. Bridgerton season 2. Anyone? Is that a fave? It always hits because it usually just means. I also love it when it's enemies to lovers and there's really high stakes. I know Zuko and Katara is a divisive one, but as I grew older, I usually was, as a kid, like first watching it, I was Aang and Katara. Then as I got older, I was Zuko and Katara. So I don't know what this is about me. Strangers to lovers. It doesn't make sense because most people are strangers to lovers in real life. Isn't that how most people start out? So I'm just going to say middle of the road. Childhood friends to lovers. Oh, I love it. Was I the kind of girl when she grew up just watching those really cheesy, like, kid, like, Disney and, like, rom-coms, and just, like, all those movies that really focus on, like, their friends finally realizing their unrequited love for each other? Yes, I was. Oh no, slow burn. I'm gonna put it in doesn't usually hit. Am I necessarily running? I might sometimes run for the hills. I'm the kind of person who wants snippety snip. Like, I want it to be quick. I want the romance to be there. I don't need y'all denying everything around you for the entirety of the book. Because usually slow burns tend to run a little slow, and the burn is a little, like, kind of like a drop in water for me. It's, like, really cool, not, like, sizzling at all. So, yeah. Plus, those tend to just really be long books. So, yeah. Sorry to all my slow burn lovers. One of Us is Famous, honestly, I don't go out of my way to seek it out. But you know what? She's fine. She's cute. Usually it's accompanied by someone as rich. So I hate everyone in the world but you. I don't know that I go out of my way to seek it either. Plus also in real life, reforming the bad boy, like reforming the bad girl, like just like the reformation of whoever you're with. Sure. Right person, not enough time. Does anyone go out of their way to read sad books? Does anyone go out of their way to read sad books? Ever. Because right person, wrong, not enough time means that someone's gonna, be unalived, in my opinion, and I'm not going out of my way to read sad books. I don't need trauma more in my life, so, Friends to lovers. Ooh, man. I will say enemies to lovers tends to go above friends to lovers. I'm not ranking them within the tiers, but friends to lovers, whew, she was a fave growing up. Then good boy, bad girl. I don't know that it really matters to me. Insta-love. Honestly, doesn't either matter to me. Like I said, love at first sight and insta-love, they kind of go together. I tend to like a quick and snappy, and I would prefer an insta-love over a slow burn most days, which I feel like is an unpopular opinion. I'm really thinking of Lucy Eden, who I discovered this year when I think of insta-love. Insta-love also to me is kind of fated mates, and I've really discovered my love of a fated mates trope this year, so, I kind of always am enjoying it. Billionaire. I can love it or leave it. It just kind of is, again, kind of a side bit to things that I love. It's a friends to lovers and then he just happens to be a millionaire, or it's just like, oh, it's my brother's best friend and they just happen to be rich. Royalty. I don't know. I've only ever read royalty in like a fantasy setting. So I'll just put it in middle of the road because I don't know that it really matters. It's kind of like billionaire. They just happen to be rich and famous. You know? Secret relationship. I don't know. Secret relationship, it really has to depend. I'm going to say it doesn't usually hit for the sheer fact that it can be a secret relationship for the wrong reasons. I'm thinking of like in a queer romance where someone's not ready to come out and it's kind of like very heartbreaking and sad. It could also be something like interesting, like very tensiony, like a forbidden romance, stuff like that. So I don't necessarily go out of my way to hit it, you know. So we'll see. It really just depends on how it's done. Forced proximity is up here again, so we'll just, you know. Oh no, second chance romance does not usually hit for me. Does not usually hit. Again, it's kind of that wrong person, right time, or like right person, wrong time thing. Like, why did you break up in the first place, hun? Like, there had to have been reasons. Like, if you were kids, fine. Maybe they grew up and they changed. But also, like, I'm not going out of my way to seek out someone, like, oh, because to me is like, that if I don't have that backstory and then there's been years in between and it's like, oh, all of a sudden we found out we're in love again? I don't know. Okay, single parent is repeated. We put her there. Workplace romance is... What isn't repeated? Best friend's brother is up there. Best friend's brother. No, we had brother's best friend. Best friend's brother is also absolutely amazing. Now that is the victorious song that plays on repeat in my head. Marriage of convenience. Honestly, marriage of convenience is kind of like a fake dating where I'm like, yeah. I kind of, woo! And then the last one that we're going to be putting up here is Stepbrother Romance. Now, I attempted to read For the Fans by Nyla Kay, and then I realized it was a stepbrother romance, and I was like, good luck, because I'm never going to read this. It feels to me like that is another reason I should have had a tier that just said, belongs in jail because y'all should be arrested, sort of situation. Teacher-student, stepbrother. Anal bully romance to a degree. Honestly, mafia romance probably should have been there because, but we're going to ignore that. But yeah, no, nothing entices me, never will it. I'm from the South and I recognize the stereotypes. And I will forever be icked out by the thought that that is something that we as a society decided was what we enjoyed in our books. But hey, I guess to each their own. Read what you like, love what you love, sort of situation. However, some of those do make me question some things. But that is the official final ranking of everything. Let me know how you would have ranked yours and let me know how we differ in our opinions because I know that I put some unpopular ones into this list. And let me know what you would like me to rank next. Are we going to be ranking fantasy book tropes next? Anyone? Let me know.